Friends, today's video is about a decision that has shocked experts, scientists, and ordinary people around the world. This decision was made by Burkina Faso's president, Ibrahim Traoré. He announced that whales would be released into the country's rivers. Now, you might be wondering, whales live in oceans, not rivers. So why bring them here? That's exactly what makes this plan so unique and so surprising. For years, the rivers of Burkina Faso had been in decline. Once, they were the lifeline of the villages, but their waters were shrinking, their flow weakening, and fish populations falling. The water grew muddy, and swamp-like conditions began to spread. The biggest reason was deforestation along riverbanks, reduced rainfall, and climate change disrupting the natural balance. Fishermen, who had relied on these rivers for their livelihoods, suffered the most. Once, a single net would pull up dozens of fish. Now, the same nets returned empty. Villagers who depended on fish not just for income, but also for food faced both unemployment and hunger. Children suffered malnutrition. Farmers struggled too, as weaker rivers meant less water for their fields. This was no longer just an environmental crisis. It was threatening the entire society and economy of Burkina Faso. When Ibrahim Traoré saw this crisis up close, he realized that if action wasn't taken, the rivers, and with them, rural life, would vanish. He decided something bold had to be done, something unconventional that could bring the ecosystem back to life. That's when the idea was born: release whales into the rivers. Most people think of whales only as massive creatures of the ocean, with no connection to rivers. But the truth is, wherever whales exist, they bring an entire ecological system with them. They're not just animals, they're pillars of nature's balance. When whales swim, their massive bodies stir the water, sending oxygen deep into the riverbed. That oxygen is what fish and aquatic plants need to survive. Wherever whales go, the water becomes fresher and cleaner. Their natural waste acts as fertilizer, helping aquatic plants grow, which in turn feeds smaller fish. With more small fish, larger fish return too. And suddenly, fishermen who had been struggling see their nets fill again. Birds come back too. The surface, wild animals return to the riverbanks, and the entire ecosystem revives. But of course, the biggest question was, how do you even bring such massive creatures into a river? Whales weigh tons and stretch dozens of feet long. Moving them is no small task. Many said the idea was pure fantasy, impossible to execute. But for Ibrahim Traoré, impossible was not in the dictionary. First, new technology was brought in. Special containers were built to safely hold the whales during transport. These were loaded onto massive trucks, with advanced machines inside to regulate water temperature and oxygen levels. Each whale had a dedicated medical team monitoring its heartbeat, breathing, and overall condition throughout the journey. Roads and bridges were temporarily closed to make way for the convoy. In some places, helicopters and cranes were even used to move the giant containers. Finally, after a long journey from the ocean to the riverbanks, the whales were ready. Thousands of villagers gathered to witness the historic moment. And as soon as the whales were released into the river, a wave of life seemed to surge through the water. People erupted in joy. It wasn't just a success. It was history being made. Fishermen immediately noticed the change. The water moved faster, fresher, full of energy again. Elders in the villages said they had never seen such a sight in their lifetimes. They believed this would save future generations from hunger and poverty. Parents felt hope that their children would grow strong again, with fish returning to their diet. This wasn't just an environmental project, it was a promise to every family in the nation. Soon, the results spread beyond the rivers. With more oxygen and movement in the water, riverbanks turned green again. Grass and plants began to grow. Where once only dry soil remained, birds like storks and ducks returned, and wild animals came to drink from the water once more. Farmers said their fields were receiving better irrigation, crops were stronger, and the soil was more fertile. In just a few months, what seemed dead was alive again. Experts said Traoré had created a new global model, an example of how to revive dying rivers not just in Africa, but across the world. When the news broke internationally, it became headline material. Major global media channels covered it as breaking news. On social media, videos of whales being released into the Haiti rivers went viral, with millions praising the bold move. Some critics called it madness, but most scientists hailed it as a groundbreaking ecological experiment. African leaders admired the step, saying if a small, resource-limited nation like Burkina Faso could attempt such innovation, then others had no excuse. Environmental organizations in Europe and Asia even began sending delegations to study the project. Scientists declared that this could open a new chapter in environmental science. Many rivers around the world face similar decline, and Traoré's decision may serve as the blueprint for bringing them back to life. This wasn't just about saving rivers. It was about proving what leadership really means. Ibrahim Traoré showed the true leadership is about making bold decisions when the future is at stake. By bringing whales into the rivers, he didn't just restore nature, he restored hope. He showed his people that when a government stands with its citizens, no challenge is too great. Friends, this story teaches us that with courage, vision, and determination, even the impossible can be made possible. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and tell us in the comments what you think about Ibrahim Traoré's incredible project. And, of course, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss more inspiring stories like this one.